Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Beruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are on top of the Yud Zayin, Amud Bet. Today's Amud is being learned, L'Zchut Refuah Shalma, Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, that should have full recovery, Refuah Shalma, Amen. This month's learnings of the community has been graciously dedicated by the Kohen family, by Dayan family, and by Shea families. Should be an ultimate zchut, Bezrat Hashem, for all of their families. Amen. So we learned the ingenious reconstructive surgery of Rabbi Shimon to our pasuk, of learning 6 different items, many different halachot, from the way the pasuk is mentioned, to the degree that Rava said, if a woman wants to give birth, she should be davening that my baby should be a Talmid Chacham like Rabbi Shimon. I was very impressed by the way he learned pretty much everything from the comparisons that he had with Maaser. The way the pasuk is written, it's written based on Rabbi Shimon's understanding. The lightest weight is in the very beginning. Maaser Sheni is mentioned in the beginning. And Rabbi Shimon says, well, all the other things that are mentioned in the pasuk, I could have learned already Kal Vachomer, from Maaser Sheni. Bechor is more chamur than Maaser Sheni. And so is every single other item that's mentioned in the pasuk. So therefore, he goes back and says, why are you telling me Bechor if you already told me I can't eat Maaser Sheni in Yerushalayim, outside Yerushalayim? So why is it that you're telling me Bechor? I would have already known. You say Maaser Sheni, I was like, okay, if Maaser Sheni you can't eat, certainly you can't eat Bechor, certainly you can't eat Shelamim, and all the other things that are mentioned in the pasuk. He compares them, and the order that they're written in the psukim, in the pasuk, gives you the opportunity of making drasha that if it's not telling me the baseline information, because I would have known the baseline information from Kal Vachomer, it must be coming to teach me a new thing. So based on that, he learned halachot for bikurim, for bechor, for korban shlamim and todah, for korban chatat and asham, and even for korban olah. Now, Rava, as impressed as he is, he says, but I don't agree with a word that Rabbi Shimon said. With all due respect, every single one of the things that he said, well, he holds that the hierarchy works like this, and based on his hierarchy, I understand, but I'm going to throw a wrench in every single thing that he said and show you that each one of them may be more stringent in one way, but they're more lenient in a different way. If you want to learn Kal Vachomer has to be all odds equal and plus, right? It's a logical discourse. That's how it is. If this small thing has this law, so something that's much higher certainly should have this law. But if I find for you a law that this has, a halacha that this has, that's much more lenient, then of course you cannot make, because all odds are not equal. So Rava says, let's go through this Rabbi Shimon again, and I will disprove every single point and dismantle it one by one, showing you that everything that he says is more stringent happens to also be more lenient in a different aspect. And therefore, if it is more lenient, I don't have a logical discourse of learning logically without any source that if this is true, if Maaser you can't eat outside of Yerushalayim, surely you can't eat Bechor out of Yerushalayim. No. They have different laws. They're just different. And if they're just different, you cannot learn them one from the other. Right? That's the simple thing that the Gemara is going to do.
We're going to address Einon Shimen Adin, which
yes.
is the quote-unquote elephant.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to address that after.
Mm-hmm. immediately after, and it's going to be Bezat Hashem in today's Amud. So says the Gemara, let's learn together through this. So Amar Rava, again, second line. Amar Rava, the Yelida Imeh, a woman that wants to give birth, she should daven. Rabbi Shimon told it that she should give birth to a child as a Talmid Chacham, talented like Rabbi Shimon. Ve'ilo lo tolid. Right, that's that already. The Ritba takes out. It's too sharp of a language. Ve'afal gav, and then now he continues. Says afal gav the itlehu pircha. Even though that every single one of the things that Rabbi Shimon says has a problem that is going to actually take it apart, and as we're going to show, because my chumra de bikurim mimaser, the very first thing that Rabbi Shimon said was, if the pasuk has told me about maaser, then you no longer have to tell me about bikurim. Why? Because bikurim is more stringent than maaser. Hence, if I know maaser, you can't eat outside of Yerushalayim, maaser sheni, we're saying. So surely you cannot eat bikurim outside of Yerushalayim, and hence must be coming to teach me that bikurim, you cannot eat it before you read the text of the parasha that is mentioned in the Torah, when you bring it to the Kohen in Bet HaMikdash and he puts it in front of the Mizbeach, and afterwards you read the text, right? That was the whole limud of Rabbi Shimon. So says the Gemara, my chumra de bikurim, why does Rabbi Shimon think that bikurim is more stringent than maaser? Well, because sheken asurim lezarim, because bikurim cannot be eaten by a non-Kohen. Only a Kohen can eat bikurim. Correct? Mashenken maaser sheni, you could eat it as a regular Jew that's not Kohen, and therefore bikurim is more stringent. Says Rava, Adarabba. On the contrary, bikurim has a side that is much less stringent than maaser, because maaser chamur, maaser has its own chumrah, stringency, sheken asur leonin. If a person becomes chas v'shalom an onin, that means one of your 7 immediate family members pass, and they are not buried yet, the person is in a state of onin, which is the state before avelut, right? So in that case, a person cannot eat maaser sheni. In vidui maaser, it says, lo achalti beoni mimenu, right? Velo natati mimenu lamet. That I didn't eat from it when I was an onin, it says, right? So therefore, it's asur for onin. But maaser, but bikurim rather, in Givarai Masechet Yevamot, it says that Rabbi Shimon himself holds that an onen can eat bikurim. So you see, bikurim, as stringent as they may be, they still are more lenient in some aspect that I just proved to you in comparison with maaser sheni. So therefore, don't you tell me that we could have a logical discourse of kal vachomer and learn that bikurim is not needed to be said in the parasha of outside Yerushalayim, because it would be learned from kal. You can't learn it from kal vachomer, right? So therefore, when the pasuk is coming to tell you that you can't eat it outside Yerushalayim, it's coming to tell you for itself, because you can't learn it from kal vachomer. Great. Next, now we have 6 of these to go through. Says the Gemara, Umay chumra de toda v'shlamim mimaser. Now the Gemara said that Rabbi Shimon holds toda v'shlamim is also more stringent than maaser, because they are korbanot, and every korban needs shechita, right? Needs a whole process, whereas maaser is not a korban. Maaser is a very simple thing. Maaser sheni is a second tithe that you use to your produce, and you bring it to Yerushalayim, you can eat it yourself. You just have to eat it in Yerushalayim. That's about it. It's a very simple process. Korban needs to have a lot of different processes until it is kasher. Sheken teunin matan damim. You need to sprinkle the blood, even after shechita and all of that. Imurim, their fat has to be burnt on a process, official process on top of the mizbeach. That's the chumrah. The Gemara says, Rava is saying, Adarabba, on the contrary, I will find for you an astringency in Maaser Sheni over korbanot, over the shlamim and todah. Maaser chamur shken ta'un kesef tzura. Here, let me explain this. If you have Maaser Sheni and it's fruits, things that are going to go bad, and you can't get up and go to Yerushalayim. You can't just get up and go to Yerushalayim anytime. But you can't eat this Maaser outside of Yerushalayim. Even in Eretz Yisrael, you cannot eat it outside. So what do? Well, you have to get up and go to Yerushalayim if you want to eat it. I can't go to Yerushalayim. So you redeem it. You do a pidyon on money. And now the money contains that holiness, that kedusha. You take the money in Yerushalayim whenever you go, and you buy food with it, you eat it there. A transfer of kedusha on money. That's called pidyon. Now, that money, the Torah says this, right? It says, "V'sarta kesef biyadecha." The Gemara darshins that it has to be an official coin coined by the government, and it has the stamp, the tzura, the picture of that government. It can't just be a piece of silver that has monetary value. Can't. It has to be an official coin, the currency, with the stamp, a proper stamp on it. So if you have, let's say, an old coin that now it has been wiped out, the tzura on top of it has been touched by people enough that it's wiped out, but the government does not value that anymore because you don't know what it is, right? Well, you could melt it and make a thing because it still is gold, still is silver. You cannot do a pidyon, a redemption of Maaser Sheni on that coin, because now the case of tzura. How about the korban? If I have a todah shlamim and then the animal becomes pasul for korban, right? We just learned in Tisha B'Av the kamsa or bar kamsa, right? Bedukin shebe'ayin, or in the lib sefatayim, it became pasul. The korban became pasul. What do you do now? Well, you just redeem it, and it could be on. It doesn't have to be kesef surah. It could be on anything, right? So you see, there's a stringency made by the Torah. The only time that you need this is by Maaser Sheni. Why? Well, Maaser Sheni has a side of stringency that nothing else has. So therefore, if I find something more stringent, again, I just destroyed your logical discourse. You cannot tell me that this is more stringent than this, because each one of them has its own laws and regulations. There's no hierarchy that now you can learn one from the other, because they're just different, right? This one is, generally speaking, more stringent, and this one is also more stringent in something. So says the Gemara, next one. So what's the next one was Bechor, right? And Rabbi Shimon said Bechor is more stringent than Todah Ushlamim. Even though that they're both considered Koshim Kalim, Bechor is more stringent because, anyone remembers? It is holy from the first moment. From moment of birth, Bechor is Kadosh. It's the firstborn of the animal, and it's born with Kedusha. Versus a Todah Shlamim, you have to choose a korban and say this is Harezeh Todah, whatever it is that you appoint it to be. Says the Gemara, Adarabba. Rava says, well, I will find you something that is more stringent in Todah and Shlamim than in Bechor. Adarabba, says the Gemara, Todah ve'Shlamim chamurim shken teunim smicha. So let me explain this as well. Regular korbanot, when you bring them to Beit HaMikdash, and Todah Shlamim for sure, right? After bringing it in the Beit HaMikdash, in the place that's going to be shechted, the owners would put their hands on on the head of this animal, and they would say words of Shevach to Hashem, right? We call that semicha. It's a process, in the process of the korban. Again, shechting an animal is something that's supposed to be a process that brings you closer to Hashem, whether it is atonement or it's not atonement. Part of that would be, if you say vidui or just divrei shevach, like Rambam says, that's a process that korban todah has when you're bringing an animal sacrifice for korban todah, thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a miracle that happened, that you survived something that people don't necessarily survive. You thank Hashem. It has a process of thanking Hashem in its shechita that Bechor does not have. Shlamim is the same way. And on top of that, it also has nesachim. You pour wine on top of the mizbeach as part of that as well, which, again, Bechor does not have. And also, it's terufat chazeh v'shok, that parts of it are offered to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Of course, is given to the Shevet Keuna, but there's a whole process of tenuva. Those three things you don't have by a Bechor. So, again, all I'm saying, says Rava, is they're different. You picked one side that is more stringent, and you say, well, this is the hierarchy, Maser, blah, 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 blah. And you have a whole system based on what you're saying, correct, but I could challenge every single thing that you said, and I'm doing it. Says the Gemara. Next one. So we said, Chatat ve'asham are Kodashim. Kodashim, they're higher level. They're not Kodashim Kalim. There are two levels of holiness in the Korbanot. There are Kodashim Kalim, lighter level of Kodshim, and then there are Kodashim, holy holies, right? So says the Gemara, Chatat v'asham from Bechor is more chamur. You said, Rabbi Shimon, Sheken Koche Kodashim, because they're considered Koche Kodashim. Says Rava, let me challenge that. Adarabba, on the contrary. Bechor Chamur. Bechor is more stringent than Chatat and Asham. Sheken Kedushato Mirechem. Because we just mentioned a moment ago that Bechor has its own stringency, that from the moment of birth it was Kadosh, versus a Chatat and Asham, until the moment, right, that you made it holy, you appointed it to be a Chatat or Asham, it was just the Joshua grazing in the field, right? So says the Gemara, Umay Chumra de Olah, the final one was a Korban Olah, right? You can't get more Chamur than Olah. Korban Olah is Koche Kodashim, and all of it is completely burnt, right? For Hashem, it's not aside from the skin. Sheken Kalil, all of it burns. Says Adarabba. On the contrary, we are talking about what you can and what you cannot eat, and where you could eat them, where you can't. That's what the topic is. So therefore, Chatat v'Hasham, Chamiri, Chatat v'Hasham are much better to learn than Olah, Sheken Mechapri, because they are considered a kapara, right? But Chatat comes for anything that you're chayav karet, the highest level of transgressions, you bring korban Chatat. Asham, for instance, Asham Talui, you bring when you're not so sure, right? You come home and you're starving and your wife is not home, right? That's already a recipe for disaster, always. Like, so you see a pile of, 2 piles of fat over there, you take one of them, you put in the sikh, you make kebab, awesome, right? And then your wife comes home, he's like, where's the pile here? She said, I made kebab. He said, oh, Hashem Yirachem, right? This was chelev. I just did nikur on the basar. The pile that you ate was chelev, right? Then you have to bring korban chatat. Now, how about if your dog came before you and it ate one of the piles and you ate one of the other piles, right? So your wife comes over and says, where is all the fat? Like, I was only one pile, I ate it. Says, oh no, it's 2. He says, no, the dog ate the other one. So now you don't know which one you ate. Did you eat the chelev? Did you eat the actual kosher fat? So safek, you have to bring korban asham talui. until your wife goes and cleans the dog house, and then she realizes that what the dog ate was actually the kosher fat, right? Because sometimes dogs know better. And then she comes and tells you, then you have to bring on top of the Asham Talu, you have to bring now Korban Hatat as well. These are like high-level atonements. So it says, Ola is not, Ola is, you bring Korban Ola because it's a Nedava you bring. Now, happens to be, I just open important parentheses, and the Ritva says this, Korban Ola also is an atonement for mitzvot aseh, mitzvot lo ta'aseh, the positive and negative mitzvot, the lower level ones that don't have karet, and also for hirhure avera. If you think of an avera, that by itself is something of a negativity, and Ola is an atonement for that too. But with all of that said, it's not the primary point of Ola. You don't say, well, I just transgressed, I forgot to put tefillin one day, so I'm going to go bring Korban. Don't say that. That's not how it works. If you bring Korban Olah, it also atones. It has an element of atonement. But Chatat and Asham, they are actual remedies for atonement for the Averot that have been done. It's part of the process of the Tshuva. So therefore, they have more stringency than Olah. Ve'kulhu chamiri me'olah. And says the Gemara, all of the above mentioned items have a chumrah over Korban Olah, even though that you think Olah is the most stringent because all of it burns. Not necessarily, because again, as I said, we are talking about what you can eat and what you can't eat outside of Yerushalayim. That's the topic of the pasuk. So therefore, to bring something that you can't even eat it is not necessarily more chamur. Yeah, Olah is always across Gemara, always is deemed to be the most stringent, right? The Gemara says it because it's kulo kalil, it's all burnt to Hashem. I understand, says the Gemara. But for this very specific reason, says Rava, we want to know what you could and can't eat and where. So to bring something that you can't even eat it, it's not necessarily more chumrah. You know, I want to know what you can eat and where you can eat. The itbehu shte achilot. This is like kochim terminology because there are two consumptions for it. There is the consumption of human beings for all the other korbanot aside from chatat, from olah rather. You eat it, human beings, and also it is consumed on top of mizbeach. So it's consumption of heavenly consumption and also human consumption. It has both of them, but Olah only has one category of consumption is consumed on top of the Mizbeach, and therefore it's not necessarily more stringent. So as the Gemara not dismantled everything Rabbi Shimon had said. Now the Gemara scratches it, says, so why are you saying that everyone that's pregnant should daven that their baby should be like Rabbi Shimon? You just dismantled everything that the guy said. Elamai de yelide ime Rabbi Shimon. So what is this? The yalda ime Rabbi Shimon bracha that he gave? Gemara says no. It's still extremely impressive what he has said, because the lemai de svirale, the way he has the hierarchy of stringency in his mind, which is what we just mentioned, according to that hierarchy, the way he constructed the drashot from this one pasuk is so ingenious and amazing. It's really impressive. Like when we went through it yesterday, I think at the end of Shiur, everyone was on cloud nine. It was awesome. The way he actually constructed the entire thing, how each one is teaching you a new level. It's really, really creative. Massive Tameh Hacham you need to be to say such a thing. I happen to show that his hierarchy, the way he holds it, I disagree with. But based on what he holds, what he did with it is absolutely awesome, says the Gemara. Fine. The lemai de svirale, according to what he holds, the ledideh mesares le lekra v'darish le, the way he constructs the pasuk and darshins it one by one, is a genius way. Fine. Now the Gemara asks your question, right? The elephant in the room, as you said it. And it says, wait a second. How can you even learn azhara of love from Kal Vachomer. We hold across the Talmud, all over Shas, ein mazhirin min hadin. If you want to teach me a lav, a don't do, you can't teach it to me from a logical discourse. That if I told you that this one has a lav, surely that one has a lav. It doesn't work like that. The Torah, when he wants to tell you, don't do this, and if you do it, you'll get punished, it has to tell it to me explicitly. You can't have like logical discourses. We don't learn azhara from Kal Vachomer. And you seem to say, well, you get punished because it's azhara, and Rabbi Shimon learned all of them from Kal Vachomer. How does that work? That seems to defy the most basic law of azharot, of lavim in the Torah. So says the Gemara, Vechi masirin min hadin, says the Gemara, since when we started giving azhara from Kal Vachomer? Ha'afilu leman da'amar onshin min hadin, even onshin min hadin, we say en onshin min hadin. You can't punish from Kal Vachomer either. But that is machloket. But even according to the one that holds onshin min hadin, he also agrees en mashirin min hadin. That everybody agrees.
So what's the difference between Onshi min hadin
So
and Mashirin min hadin?
So every punishment that the betin down here, we're not talking about mitabi de shamayim. We're not talking about heavenly punishments. If the court down here, if the betin down here wants to punish someone, they need two things. The Torah has to have said explicitly that this is something that you cannot do. And then he has to have a second element of the Torah saying, and if you do it, you'll get punished. It's like a double fold on everything, right? So you find the Gemara busy a lot of times. We've had a number of it already come up. The Gemara said, where is the azhara? Where is the warning? And where is the punishment? Where is the warning? Where's the punishment? You need warning and punishment. You cannot warn me from a logical discourse. Even if you tell me that you could give the punishment from a logical discourse, that if the punishment of this one is this, surely the other one has the same punishment. Even if you say that, but the warning has to be a clear-cut warning without any logical discourses. Now we'll see, Be'ezrat Hashem, in the next shiur, how exactly we got to go about answering this bomb question.